Well, it was already a tough night for the Miami Dolphins, and then it got worse. Welcome into Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. Tua Tagovailoa suffers another concussion tonight in, again, a game that was already a disaster for Miami. And then this happens in the third quarter, and you're just like, oh my goodness, could this get any worse? And it does, because Tua leaves the game. I've got reaction to all of it here on tonight's show. This is why you subscribe to the channel. Good news, bad news, as long as it's a major storyline, we're going to cover it here on Verts when it comes to the NFL and college football world. So make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you turn on those notifications. That way you never miss out on any major NFL storylines and my opinions and analysis of it. I mean, this isn't good, guys. This is not good at all. Another concussion from Tua, who, as you know, suffered 3 of these back in 2022. And I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the one against Cincinnati. Remember a couple years ago when his right hand kind of did the weird, like, I don't know, like twitch thing, and you're just like, oh gosh, like, it makes you think, like, the brain's malfunctioning, right? Like, what's going on? And, we're all at home watching, and I'm not a doctor. Most of you aren't. We're just like, confused. But, like, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together, like, oh, that's neurological. Like something is not right there. Well, it happened again tonight. He scrambled forward on a 4th and 4, and it was 31-10 already. Miami was struggling, but still third quarter. Field goal wouldn't help, so they needed a touchdown. And it was one of those where if he slides, remember, in the NFL, it's when you start the slide. It would have been really close to a first down. I think in any other situation he would have slid, but instead he leaned forward, and Damar Hamlin kind of just wrapped him up, but his neck kind of bent. It was a hard collision. It wasn't a dirty hit because he wasn't even diving. He was kind of just leaning forward, and, ironically, Damar Hamlin's the one tackling him. And then you see him go down, and you see the hand kind of start flinching again, and you just know instantly, you're like, he's concussed. And again, I'm not a doctor, but we've seen this before with Tua. It was a major concern going into last year. Remember last year, he put on like 15, 20 pounds, did a lot of jiu-jitsu training to figure out how to avoid these hits and absorb these hits, yada, yada, yada. It was a huge storyline, and he played all 17 games. So it was like, okay, like that's a positive development. He played well. Obviously, Miami flamed out and lost the playoffs, but the Dolphins felt comfortable enough to give him a major contract this offseason. $212 million, $53 a year. Can't remember the guarantees, but it's like 160 something. And then he goes down with a concussion in week 2 of this season, and there's just so many thoughts and emotions that go into it. Like, the first one is you hope this player's okay. I mean, concussions are one of those things that the more you have, the more likely you are to have them, and the more dangerous it gets to play football. Because it just takes one wrong hit where you can't play again, or worse, you're not walking again, whatever the case may be. And this is clearly a major concern, because it's a recurring theme now. Again, I know last year he was able to avoid them, but I remember when I read the storyline this offseason that, oh, he's lost 15 pounds, he wants to be lighter on his feet so he can move around more. I was like, is that a good idea? He finally just got through a healthy season, and now you want to get a little more nimble? Like, I get wanting to be able to move better, but if you're more susceptible to taking big hits when you're lighter. It might be harder to hit the player, but if you do hit him, he's going to get injured probably. And that's what we saw tonight. And so, I don't know, they're flashing the box with Stephen Ross, who just paid him this big contract, and it was already a disaster. We'll talk about the game itself in a minute, as the Bills are taking a knee to win 31-10. It was never competitive, but you can't help but wonder what this means big picture. I mean, I think short term, recurring concussion guy, I know it's Thursday Night Football, he's probably going to miss next week, right? I mean, you would think he was able to walk off under his own power, so that was a positive, but I don't know, man. They go to Seattle next week, then they return home to Tennessee. Maybe he can come back for that game, but I can't help but be concerned if I'm a Dolphins fan tonight. Obviously, I'm concerned at how we played if I'm a Dolphins fan, but I'm just concerned about A, is this guy going to be okay? And B, if he is, like, can we trust him to stay healthy and avoid these hits? Because it just keeps happening. It just keeps happening, and you feel for the guy, but it's tough to watch. I mean, as soon as it happened, you're just like hands and face, you're like, oh my God, you just know. Everyone watching knew he was concussed, and that was tough, man. I hope Tua's okay. I know I've been a critic of his. He hasn't performed well in big games. Once again tonight, wasn't performing well. Had thrown a ugly pick six the drive before, 3 picks on the night. One wasn't his fault, granted, but the last one is just an all-time bad pick. He's off his back foot, floats it to the sideline. It's an easy pick six. And then the next drive, he drives him down and gets concussed. It's just like, Jesus, man. Like, tonight could not have gone worse for the Miami Dolphins. It just really couldn't have. Let's talk about the game as a whole. Are obligated to do that here. I like the Bills going into this game. I thought them getting 2.5 points was free money for any gamblers out there. Put a little coin on that. Also had James Cook first touchdown of the game at plus 930, so that hit. This was just never close. And, I thought maybe Miami would be more competitive because Tua in warm weather, they're getting them at home. It's early in the year. It's a new look Buffalo team. Maybe they're catching them at the right time. And then, it's almost like in the first drive, Miami's driving a little bit, and Tua throws a nice ball, but the receiver isn't ready for it. Gets knocked off his shoulder and picked off, and you're just like, here we go again. Buffalo's about to beat them. And they scored, and then they scored again, and then they scored again. And then you look up, and the game's over. I mean, it's 24-10 at halftime, and you're just like, well, this game's over. The Dolphins, once again, can't hang with the Bills. And it's kind of the story of the McDaniel and Tua era. They beat up on bad teams, but they can't hang with the big boys. It's not just that they can't beat the big boys. They typically lose in ugly fashion. James Cook was dominant tonight. 3 touchdowns. Only had 11 carries, but had 78 yards. Had that 49-yard touchdown late in the first half. Caught the touchdown on the Bills' opening drive on, I think it was a 4th down, 4th and 3. Cool design by Joe Brady. Little misdirection. He flips it to Cook on the left side and goes untouched for a touchdown. It's a new-look Bills team. They got different guys. Khalil Shakir, 5 catches. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches. It's not Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis anymore, but they're physical defensively. They're well-coached, clearly. And Josh Allen, even though he didn't have to do much tonight, unless it's against Mahomes in the playoffs, you just trust him in these big spots. After Mahomes, he's the guy you trust the most. Maybe peak Burrow you would trust more, but that's a whole different deal. We haven't seen that in a little bit now. The Bills are still going to be formidable. They're still going to be really good. And, Von Miller had a sack tonight, his second of the year. He looks rejuvenated. They're just making it work. Everybody wrote off the Bills this year like, oh, they had to cut all these guys, bad contracts. This is Miami's year. This is the Jets' year. No, the Bills are going to win the division because that's what they do. Now, whether they have enough to make a deep playoff run in the AFC, we'll see. I still don't love them against the Chiefs, but could they beat the AFC North winner? I'd pick them against, for sure, Cincinnati and maybe Baltimore. AFC South, Houston would be an interesting matchup, but the Bills don't look like a team that's treating this year as like a retooling year. Like they feel like they can contend. And, Josh Allen may not put the gaudy numbers up this year, but he's taking care of the ball through 2 games. And that's a positive. And James Cook is more involved, and the defense is good. And they're good. And to add injury to insult to injury, Teron Armstead left the game in the 4th quarter for the Dolphins with an injury. And you're just like, this was the time to beat Buffalo, man. It was muggy as hell. I mean, they're doing the national anthem and they're sweating bullets. And you're like, come on, Miami, this is it. And Tua's throwing picks left and right. Again, we wish him well. But he did not look good objectively. 17 of 25, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, including one of the worst picks you'll ever see. Then he leaves the game. Devon Achane had a decent game, 22 carries, 96 yards. But by the way, Skylar Thompson came in. He's not that quality of a backup. If this Tua thing is serious, do they bring back Ryan Tannehill? I mean, this is as bad as it gets for the Dolphins. Tonight could not have gone worse. They got blown out again by Buffalo. I think that's 12 out of 13 against the Bills. Josh Allen, I think, is 12-2 against Miami in his career. And then Tua goes down with an injury, and so does Teron Armstead. Not just any injury for Tua, a concussion, another one. I mean, it's a major concern. It just is. You can't sit there and act like it's not. I mean, you got to be really worried. If you're a Dolphins fan, if you're Dolphins coaching staff, ownership, we just paid this guy a shit ton of money because we believe in him, and now he's concussed again. That's a major concern. There's just no way around it. All right, that's going to do it. Bills hammer the Dolphins 31-10. We hope Tua is okay. That is first and foremost. Buffalo looks formidable. Be sure to subscribe. We'll continue to keep you guys in the loop with all things NFL and college football. My name is Harrison Graham. We will see you guys soon.